Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Fast Way to Fat Loss podcast. I am thrilled to be here with Leigh, who is the founder of Mind in Motion. Leigh, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Leigh, we bonded over a couple of fun facts and things that maybe even my Faster Way community might not know about me personally that you and I happen to share in common. One is that we are both from Long Island, New York. And I immediately, when we first met, recognized your accent. I can sniff people out from Long Island 100 miles away. But also, I was a psychology major, and you have such a passion for psychology and mindset. But tell us just a little bit about yourself. Where did you come from? Where did you go to school? Education, passions, all those fun things.
And likewise, I love when I hear my people, my Long Island people. So grew up on Long Island, was a very competitive tennis player, picked up my first racket at 4 years old. And I can remember my first lesson being totally obsessed with that sensation of that yellow fuzzy ball striking the strings. Although the first time I didn't strike the strings. And, by 8, 9, 10, became very competitive, started playing tournaments, got super into it. My parents got into it. By about 13, 14, when I guess psychologically you get a little bit more complicated, I began to develop a bit of a temper, shall we say, or a very emotional, I was a very passionate athlete. So that was the beginning of my being introduced to sports psychology. I worked with sports psychologists. I had performance coaches, all to help me get to the next level. And I realized that if I did not learn and train the skills of regulating emotion and controlling my thinking and managing my body language, I wasn't going to win as many matches. This helped take me to a higher level. I ended up getting a full scholarship to play at Northwestern University, which was amazing, and worked with even more sports psychologists, becoming even more interested in why is it that one person could control themselves and tap into their motivation and the other one was not. So always kind of intrigued. I also had a mom who was a psychiatric nurse who planted some seeds about psychology, and a business-minded father who talked to me a lot about creating my own business. So that was planting more seeds about what I wanted to do with my life. And long story short, I kind of avoided getting a real job where I'd have to sit at a desk and, be in some city dressed fancy. And I was like, I'm going to kind of stall reality and coach. So I coached tennis at Dartmouth, loved it, met amazing young student athletes. And this just created more inspiration for me I kept coaching. I coached for 5 more years at Northwestern, all the while becoming more intrigued with the psychology of these people's performances. Went to grad school at Northwestern and studied very classic, hardcore, psychoanalytic, psychodynamic theory, too many papers about Freud, and then had an office in Chicago on Michigan Avenue, and I didn't love sitting in an office, and I would listen to a lot of clients talk about they didn't like how they felt in their body, and they were gaining weight, and maybe they were struggling with depression, and they were anxious, and I thought, why am I sitting in this office? This is not feeling good to me. I'm catching it in the room. And on a whim, I was like, let's go take a walk. And it was 10 degrees out that day. And I told my client, throw your scarf on. We're just going to take to the streets. And that was it. This was what I was born to do. And this created the name of my company, Mind in Motion. And I just started literally walking and talking with clients in every possible beautiful place in nature, thus creating more sort of tenets of my philosophy and my business. But what I do a lot now, and I travel the world doing it, is I give a lot of talks about what I've learned in psychology and sports. And my favorite thing to do, I could do it all day long as my body can endure it, is being in nature, just one foot in front of the other, walking and having profound conversations with clients.
I love it so much. We recently did a bit of a habit exercise, habit formation initiative in our VIP membership. And one of the habits that we wanted our clients to really embrace was walking outside. So every day, as part of our list of deliverables, we had a 20-minute walk with a loved one on our calendar. And for 45 straight days, we empowered our clients to form that particular efficacious habit. And it's something I've done with my kiddos for years and years is take a daily walk no matter what. Even if the sun is not shining and it happens to be raining, guess what? We go out there as long as there's no lightning typically, and we do a walk. But you and I relate on so many levels. I was an exercise sports science major in college for one single day. I looked around and I said, you know what? I really need to be focused more on the psychology and understanding motivation, understanding behavior, understanding the person. So I switched to becoming a psychology major. Health psychology was by far, and sports psychology, my favorite course. And I've done research with professors at other universities as well related to psychology. But I will tell you, Leigh, something that's really interesting about our community in particular is that we recently did a survey with our 47,000 active clients. And we said, tell us about your main challenge. Tell us what you want to focus on as we continue on through this year and into next. One of the options was nutrition, fitness, saving time, mindset. And guess what? Nutrition was number one, which makes sense. We're a digital nutrition company first and foremost. But the second option that most of our clients picked, the second most chosen answer was mindset. Our clients want to focus on mindset because they understand that without the right mindset, our wellness overall is not going to be optimized. So let's chat about mindset and motivation, because sometimes we just don't have the motivation to go for a walk or to do a workout or to track our macros or to choose a healthy food. So what is the most effective way to find that motivation when we feel stuck?
It's a great question. And I love the research that you're doing, and I want hours more with you. I would say first things that comes up for me is oftentimes people wait for the feeling to strike to make the move. And if you're lucky, things are, the stars are aligned, and all of a sudden you have that compelled feeling to be like, okay, I'm going to get up and I'm going to go. Unfortunately, most of the time we need to take the action first. And once we remove all doubt and we just take that one step, that one action, we pretty instantaneously change our chemistry, thus making it easier for us to keep that motivation. We gain momentum. So I'd say action precedes the motivation. Feel the lethargy and do it anyway with the faith that the action will beget more. The very famous physics law about an object will remain at rest unless acted upon by another force. So I'd say the second piece of this is we oftentimes do not motivate in the vacuum of our own head. We don't always, and even me doing what I do for a living, it doesn't always naturally come up for me, which oftentimes I rely on the love and the connection and the inspiration of another person to help me tap into that. So I would say if you're out there and you want to up your stats, find a person, stick with a tribe, find a neighbor, a coach, a mentor, a Mr. Miyagi who's going to make you want to show up, because you're more likely to show up if you have someone else who has your back. Lifetime as an athlete, trust me when I tell you, I probably would have bailed on practice if I knew my coach wasn't going to be there and the team wasn't going to be there. So when you know someone's going to be there, you're more likely to show up. And I want to speak just briefly about this mindset thing, because it's so huge. And just like and I watch your videos, you need to actually do the squats and do the lunges to get a quad and to get a glute strong. And people know that because you can see a glute and you can see a quad. Your mind is the same. It has to be flexed, only we don't see the brain. So we don't think about the blind cumulative effects of negative, doubting, dark thinking versus positive, hopeful, optimistic thinking. So a lot of the work that I do with clients is exploring, well, how are you thinking? Tell me what's going through your brain, and I will help them cross-examine that brain. Just like you're getting people, drop down and give me 20. I'm like, give me 20 other thoughts that's going to be more helpful, because you can create them starting now. And the more often I do that with a person, it's literally like they're doing the curls. A month later, they're better at doing the curl without me. But you have to see the mind exactly like you see a washboard set of abs. You didn't get it for no reason. You got it because you trained it.
Oh my goodness. Okay, yes, we need hours and hours together, and we probably will have opportunities to see you on some of our faster way stages in particular here in the near future. But I absolutely agree. First, let's go back to the motivation discussion. When you get into forward motion, you are far more likely to then follow through with that activity. So even if it's just getting those workout clothes on, lacing up the shoes, starting, committing to the first 5 minutes, guess what? You're probably going to finish it. You might not have felt the motivation in that moment as you were lacing up your shoes, but as you get through the first 4 and 5 minutes, you're probably going to start feeling good. The endorphins are going, and then you're going to establish a habit, and the consistency and the commitment and the discipline, even when the motivation wanes, to continue on with that. I love your point about having a buddy, because if you have a support system or that Mr. Miyagi, the mentor who you got to show up for, it also is going to give you the drive to follow through. Absolutely. And then treating your mind like a muscle, just like we would with our quads and our arms. That is so, so key. There's a lot of research that you and I are familiar with from the psychology perspective of women and men who maintain positivity and optimism are far more successful in a weight loss program, in a body transformation program. And they're successful long-term. It's not just a 6-week or a 21-day or a 3. It's a full year. It's a full lifetime. And so, your reality, everyone listening, will be a direct reflection also too of what you believe to be possible. Your reality next year at this time will be a direct reflection of what you believe to be possible. If you are speaking to yourself in a way that is pessimistic or negative, that's going to become your reality. So some of you need to rewrite a story. And let's talk about this. We have listeners who say, Leigh, Amanda, I've tried so many different programs. I've been there, done that. I've bought the t-shirt literally when it comes to diets and weight loss and fitness. And it's just going to be another situation where I try and I fail. How do we rewrite that story, Leigh, so that we can have a more positive outcome in 2023?
I love the question. So I want to go back to one thing you said, which is like, have the shoes ready, have the outfit ready. I talk a lot with clients about the power of ritual, that every day there's a bunch of rituals you may not even realize are contributing to whether you're going to have an updraft or a downdraft. I talk to clients all the time about have your sneakers ready to go. Put your sneakers on before you even go to pee in the morning or brush your teeth, because the moment you have the sneakers on, your brain is already knowing, like, I'm going to take the walk. So something as simple as that ritual, I think, is incredibly powerful. You also mentioned a lot of key research that I'm totally fascinated by, which is if you don't have positivity, if you don't have optimism, which for your audience, just know we are not designed to be optimistic. Like, that's not our actual natural way. Just like we have to fight gravity, our human mind, for a variety of reasons, which we don't have time to get into, our brains are going to come up with worst case scenario, catastrophic, panicked thinking that is the universal, more natural way for the design of the brain. So you're going to probably spend the rest of your life trying to swim against that current. And if you don't have the optimism, you're not going to drive the second pillar to succeeding, which is perseverance. That you are going to be the person who gets back up again, and you try again, and you try again, and you try again. And there is so much grit in you, and there is so much relentless, unyielding momentum, but you won't do it without the optimism. So to every person who is listening, who is a part of your community, I would almost just say to you, respect and honor the reality that this is a lifelong practice of you needing to remind yourself, get back up again, try again, try again, try again. Do not underestimate how brutally hard it is to just get back up again and wake up every day. Every day you wake up, you get another chance. Every second you get another chance to tap into what I believe to be a bottomless reservoir of potential. But it's not going to be some natural thing. Don't expect it to be. Some days you're just going to feel not so good. And some days you're going to be dark, and some days you're going to need to reach out to that buddy, but you always have another chance to try again and try again and try again. So even the awareness of knowing optimism does not come easy, go find people who are going to help you be reminded of the possibility, of the hope, because that is literally like you put gasoline in your car, you plug your phone in to charge it. You don't do it on your own. You have other people saying, come on, baby, you can do it. High five.
So good. If you don't feel fired up just from hearing Leigh share that couple of minutes, I've shared it before on the podcast. I'm not a naturally optimistic person. I'm not a naturally see the glass half full person. I am a realist. I have been a realist for my whole life, but I have to practice positivity. You've got to practice it. You've got to commit to a positive attitude. Even yesterday, I was thinking there were a few things that happened during my day that it could have either derailed my day or just kind of been another thing and not a big deal. And I kind of was like, man, a few years ago, this would have become like a big part of the story of how this day was going to go. But I think I've gotten to the point where even when these things go wrong, my perspective is, okay, every single day things are going to go wrong. But I have the opportunity to choose my attitude. I have the opportunity to have compassion on that person who actually doesn't have a capability to do better and to be better. So instead of bitterness toward them, guess what? I'm going to have compassion toward them. I'm going to forgive them. 95% of what counselors and therapists deal with, and sports psychologists probably, is unforgiveness, that we're unwilling to forgive someone because we think what they did to us is worse than, whatever. So it's like we have to choose the positivity and forgiveness and the optimism and the compassion if we want to optimize our lives. Truly, we can go down, that rabbit. But let's talk specifically again about nutrition and fitness. So you, Leigh, are busy. You're running a business. You have a family. How do you personally, outside of just simply kind of the morning ritual, how do you ensure that you are going to continue to focus on the best nutrition and the best lifestyle from the standpoint of exercise? Like, give us some of your personal hacks because you're the best of the best. So what can I do to make myself more like Leigh? I want to be Leigh when I grow up.
Oh man. First of all, I think you're my soul sister, Amanda, because we are so connected. Stardust.
Yes.
First thing for me is I'm a very reflective person, probably to a fault. If you ask my family, they'd be like, oh my God, Leigh's just always pondering and she's so introspective. She always is asking questions. So I actually do spend time having internal dialogue with myself, even out of the gates first thing in the morning. Like, what do I want the day to look like? How do I want to feel? If there's a question to be asking yourself, for me, it's like, how do I want to feel today? And who do I want to be today? I believe in order to create sustainable change and healthy habits, you actually have to change from the inside out. You have to have an identity. Like for me as a tennis player, I was proud to be a tennis player. And so I did everything that tennis players do. And I would obsessively watch Steffi Graf to be like, I want to be like her. So for your audience to be even thinking from an introspective, like look within, who do you want to be? And when you really start aligning with, I want to be a healthy person. I want to feel, for me, I connect to the word clean. I like feeling clean. Not even so much lean, but I like the feeling of like, I'm light and I'm clean. I'm clean. So when I'm like, okay, well, if I want to feel clean and I want to feel light, what do I need to do today to create those types of sensations? That would be like probably the most core answer for you.
Yes. It's almost like role playing. I don't know if that's like the right word, but it's almost like, if I was an actress, then I would try to learn more about someone who's, the type of role that I'm working towards. So maybe I'm like, having to be CEO from Wall Street and I have a, Irish accent. I don't know. So I would like put myself in their shoes and learn more about that. And it's almost like role playing where I learn more about, okay, the healthiest person, mind, body, spirit, who I can look up to. What does their day look like? How can I be more like that? How can I, and then it's like, you just become that person.
I love that example. I think it's spot on. And I'm going to snag it from you because I think it's a genius example of, you look at like Charlize Theron playing some role and you're like, how did you become that person? But if you interview Charlize Theron, she's going to tell you she thought about every single nuance of how you would even carry yourself to become like that character. And I do think if you're trying to become a different version of yourself, the best version of yourself, you damn well better know, what does that person do? And again, this is a lot of positive psychology and sports psychology, but you have to pay attention to knowing how you want to feel and then attuning to like, what is every little nuance that you can do to create that feeling. You have to know the feelings you want. So my clients say, I want to feel relaxed. I want to feel connected. I want to feel focused. I want to feel energized. I want to be more present. Well, what does the feeling feel like in your body? And you tell me every single process that you can potentially do that is in your control to create that feeling. Well, now it's on you, baby. Go do it. I'm with them in the process, but I would tell your audience, take the time to write down every single very nuanced process that is totally in their control, even down to exactly the beautiful, cool water bottle that they would use to be hydrated, the sneakers that they buy, everything that breaks down the sort of the essence of a ritual. Know the process, have 100 of them written down, and all of a sudden you start doing more of these processes and it becomes the fabric of your being. And I think another point you made about, sticking to these habits and, like, how is it that I train, whether it's nutrition, whether it's exercise, whether it's my mental health, you damn well better be compassionate, because the number one reason people end up bailing and going downhill is they're bummed out they didn't accomplish it. They judge themselves that they failed. And you begin this sort of self-loathing, shameful, like, if only I had done it better, shoulda, woulda, coulda. That is it. And it's not just this audience, it's every person who blocks their hope. It is because they're beating themselves up in here and the body is catching it. So while it may feel like compassion is like this soft out, no, it's not. Acceptance and compassion is the bedrock to launching yourself forward. You've got to have compassion. If you beat yourself up, never going to work. Take it from someone who's done a lot of beating myself up.
So good. And Leigh, how do we have the self-awareness to even catch ourselves in those patterns?
How much time can I take to answer that? Self-awareness is a skill. So there's you, the person, in real time, like on the ground, in the arena, in your life, real-time action, where your brain is brewing and brewing and brewing. The average brain has about 80,000 thoughts in a day, 80,000 thoughts. And you have these sensations and you have these behaviors. That's you in real time. But there's something bigger than that. There's something higher than that. And you can think of it spiritually, you can think of it psychologically, you could think of it cosmically. There is a version of you that is actually observing you. It's one of the beautiful abilities that a human being has that a dog doesn't, which is you can kind of see yourself in real time. How I teach clients is like when I'm having a session with a client, I'm basically saying, hey, hop in the hot air balloon with me and we are going to rise up. And we are going to look at you together from the hot air balloon to see what's going down over there. What are you thinking? What are you feeling? What are you doing? And that higher level of observation, that is a wisdom. You can call it awareness. You can call it consciousness. I call it like, go hot air balloon on me. And once you learn that you actually can get into a hot air balloon, then I start training clients to recognize, what are the little moments in a day that stand out as like, these are activating events. These are triggers. Watching the news and seeing something tragic, getting an email from someone that's upsetting, having someone, not respond to your text the right way, a kid that's screaming, a fight with a partner. You need to know that the trigger is happening, and all of a sudden you got to go high level to be like, let me examine myself. So even awareness, the observer's lens, that is a skill. I've been doing this for 20 years, and that is a skill I am still refining. It is the reason why people go to monasteries and train for years to become monks. It is every thought leader out there, every brilliant podcast you're listening to, we're all still in the training of becoming aware. That is, to me, like the quintessential skill on how to cope with being a human being, is to realize, no, you're not actually only in real time. There is a higher version of you.
So good. Self-awareness is key. We've got to be able to go up into that hot air balloon. As you guys are thinking about your very best self in 2023 from the standpoint of nutrition and relationships and fitness, it's the ability to consider what is going to stop you in your path, what is going to trigger you. Let's talk about the holidays, because we are in the holidays. A lot of us are busy. We are feeling stressed. We're a bit overwhelmed. What is your best tip for how to maintain optimism and positivity so that we can stay consistent and committed toward our goals throughout the holidays?
Oh, I'm in it right now. You've got me sitting in my parents' house dealing with all sorts of holidays and triggers. I'm going to give you like some really simple answers in theory, hard in reality, which is, I would advise everyone who's listening to, even if it's for 1 minute in your day, to deliberately and intentionally breathe. This is very general psychology, and this is mindfulness skills training. This is sports psychology. But I mean to tell you that if all you make the time for is literally 60 seconds of, and very specifically, rhythmic breathing. I'm not going to coach specifics on, this is exactly the technique. There's enough research in heart rate variability. There's enough research in sports psychology to say, if you breathe with a rhythm, in for 3, out for 5, in for 4, out for 4, and you find your own rhythm, 1 minute will change your chemistry. So during the holidays, maybe you find 180 seconds of your day, 1 minute in the morning in the shower or sipping your coffee, 1 minute midday, and 1 minute when you crawl into bed, where you're basically trying to attach your mind and body back together so that you're not hijacked by cortisol and stress, which you're probably going to be hijacked by cortisol and stress. So that would be very, very simple guidance for you. I'd also say, these are simple in theory but hard to do, is put your phone away. Like, take 10 minutes if you can, take 5 minutes, take an hour. There's not a single person I am working with today who's not struggling with cell phone addiction, scrolling addiction. It is the most common addiction, and it is sucking the life out of a lot of our lives. So anything you can do to recover by putting your phone away might also save the day. And to give you sports, and I think this is very aligned with what you do, you know that if you wanted to run a marathon, you wouldn't put your shoes on, go out and run, and keep running and running and running and running and running as you're training. You'd actually rest. And if your leg hurt, you would ice it. And you would get a good night's sleep and get some good nutrition to restore. You get that you couldn't just keep running out of the gates to train. You honor rest. As a tennis player, you play for 2 hours and then you stop and you throw some ice on your shoulder because you know you're going to tear your rotator cuff if you keep playing tennis. Well, when it comes to our lives and our families and our responsibilities and the hustle and the treadmill of life, you are not seeing the blind cumulative effects of running and running and churning and burning and churning and hustling. And I am guilty of it too, but you're going to get a soul stress fracture if you don't get off of the treadmill. So whatever that is for you, rest, ice, compress, elevate. For me, number 1, breathing. Number 2, put your phone down, slide it off, put it away. Don't take it with you on the walk if you have to like really recover. For me, nature is my saving grace. It is the most restorative, de-stressing thing. Stare at the stars for 10 minutes. Look at an orchid in a different way. Notice the wind at your face. So breathing, nature, digital detox, it will help counterbalance all of the pull and the tug of holiday reality. And also, like, this could be a whole talk unto itself, but this whole pressure of, like, I need it to be perfect. I need all the external things to go right, and everybody needs to be. Call BS on it. Go inward. The holidays should be about love. So be love. Do it from a place of love. Do it from a place of connection, not all the external BS we fall victim to. Go for the love. Be the love.
Oh my goodness. You will have a soul stress fracture if you don't get off the treadmill. A soul stress fracture. Girl, yes. Put the phone away during that walk. Put the phone away during the workout. Come from a place of love throughout the holidays. You're in it, I'm in it. So many of our listeners are in it right now. That stress. Sometimes family members bring out the worst in us. Let's rewrite the story this year. Rewrite the story. Rise above it. Get up into your balloon, your hot air balloon. Become more self-aware. Leigh, this has truly been wonderful, and we appreciate those who are listening and who have made it thus far. I want to read a poem, probably one that you've heard, maybe one that some of our listeners haven't, and it's about the worst day ever. I'm going to read the poem, and then we're going to pause, and I'm going to reread it with a different perspective. So it's just going to take a couple of minutes. Stick with us. Today was the absolute worst day ever. And don't try to convince me that there's something good in every day, because when you take a closer look, the world is a pretty evil place. Even if some goodness does shine through once in a while, satisfaction and happiness don't last. And it's not true that it's all in the mind and heart, because true happiness can be obtained only if one's surroundings are good. It's not true that good exists. I'm sure you can agree that the reality creates my attitude. It's all beyond my control. And you'll never in a million years hear me say that today was a good day. We're going to pause. And now we're going to read that poem backwards. Okay, I'm going to read it now from bottom to top. Today was a good day. And you'll never in a million years hear me say that it's all beyond my control. My attitude creates the reality. I'm sure you can agree that it's not true that good exists only if one's surroundings are good. True happiness can be obtained because it's all in the mind and heart. And it's not true that satisfaction and happiness don't last. Some goodness does shine through once in a while, even if the world is a pretty evil place. Because when you take a closer look, there's something good in every day. And don't try to convince me that today was the absolute worst day ever. That's a perspective shift. It's a perspective shift for each and every person listening, okay? Optimism, positivity, consistency, self-awareness, motivation. We can control the narrative. As we move through the rest of the holidays and into 2023, mindset is key. We've got to look at our mind as a muscle. We're going to learn more from Leigh as we go through this year, I'm sure. But Leigh, tell us where we can find you, because I am confident that every single person listening wants to follow you on social media, wants to learn more of the goodness that you have to share.
You can find me on my Instagram handle at yourmindinmotion, at yourmindinmotion. And you can find me on my website, which there's a whole bunch of other stuff that I do that's really inspiring that I think will connect your audience. And it's getyourmindinmotion.com. Getyourmindinmotion.com. And you can find me personally. You'll find an email address to contact me. And if you DM me, I mean this from my heart. Like, I would love to hear from you. If you have questions, find me for sure. And I hope that one day, Amanda, you and I can do some cool programming together and I get to meet people live in the flesh.
Absolutely. Leigh, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
We truly appreciate the value that you've provided today and the time that you've sacrificed, and we are better off for it. And we hope you have a great rest of the holidays.
Have a beautiful holiday, and we'll speak soon.